Good evening. Welcome everybody to the Thursday Checkdown. It is our mission at the Sports Affiliation to provide the best fantasy advice possible in a positive manner while showcasing our special guests' passion and commitment to the hobby and fantasy space. Tonight, we will be discussing the upcoming divisional round of the playoffs, picking winners, and possible upsets, and we will find out everything there is to know about our guest. I'm Joe Carlton, your new host of Thursday Checkdown. I'd also like to introduce the new co-host of the show, Rick Brusuelas. Rick, how are you doing tonight?
Great, and thanks. And we know we're filling some awful big shoes with taking over for Greg Kellogg and Tip Major, but we're also excited about the opportunity to talk with y'all and to hopefully provide the same quality of content, upbeat, positive, and fun that you've come to expect from Greg and Tip. So helping us tonight, we've got a couple of familiar faces that will be joining us as guests. And we also have a new person who's going to be joining us from the Twitterverse, and his name is Rick Avery. So hopefully they're all joining us now. And there's two people that y'all probably know pretty well. And there's Rick.
Who's that guy with the hat? Not the fedora hat. Who's that dude?
Hey,
I've never seen him before.
Rick just called us clowns. He just called us clowns. He talked about big shoes, and I remember Bozo. I remember his shoes.
Yeah, Greg, there's one bit of advice. It's more of a question. How are we going to miss you if you don't go away? But
2 weeks. 2 weeks, I'll be gone.
So
I've got
and
two
hi,
more
Rick.
shows. I've got two more shows.
Three, Greg. Or
No,
is it
next week. Well, today, but next week, and then the 6th of February.
Yes. Okay.
So we'll get to know and Rick, welcome, and sorry you had to hit this show because this is
all good. Thanks for having me.
Already Zoom. And we'll be getting to know a little bit more about you in a little bit, but and as always, making us look good and operating behind the scenes are the Sports Affiliations, Iggy and JC. So why don't we go ahead and get on with the show?
Let's get to our first segment. To AI or to not AI? As most folks know, Greg is a big Detroit Lions fan. And so this week we decided to ask SMAI, what does Washington need to do to defeat the Detroit Lions?
Just a second. SM Sports Mind AI.
Sports Mind AI. Okay.
Yeah, I do Sports Mind AI. I do SMAI on my show notes, and these poor schmucks stole my show notes, and it's my shorthand, but it's Sports Mind AI. And I think Joe came up with a great question, and we turned it around. So we found out some things about Sports Mind that I think the viewers should know.
For the Washington Commanders to beat the Detroit Lions, they need to disrupt Jared Goff's passing game, establish a strong running attack, control the clock, minimize penalties, and maximize their special teams opportunities.
Now, hopefully, Rick has gone into the chat and posted the entire thing we got from Sports AI, which is much longer. But me not liking what I read in the summary, which basically said that Washington has a slight edge in this. No, it doesn't. Detroit will be favored in this game by at least 3 points. Now, one of you guys can tell me what the point spread is, because I don't really care about that. But Detroit will be favored, and so I turned the question around and said, what does Detroit need to do to beat Washington? And the Sports AI actually made Detroit the favorite in that when I phrased it that way. So I'm going to talk to Connor, the man behind it, to find out if it's using the order of precedence to determine the answer, which I don't think is a good thing, but I'm going to give him a chance to answer why. There's a couple other mistakes. There were some players mentioned for the two teams that haven't been on the two teams for a year or two. But those are minor things that can get cleaned up with data washes. And I'm not too concerned about that. But if I'm going to recommend SportsMind to the users, they've got to have consistency in their predictions.
Okay. Thank you, Greg. Let's move on to the playoff games. We have 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday. We have Houston at Kansas City on Saturday and Washington at Detroit. And then the Sunday games, we have the LA Rams at the Philadelphia Eagles and the Baltimore Ravens at Buffalo Bills. So we'll start with the Houston-Kansas City game. And Tip, I'm going to go to you first on this one. Who do you got for a winner?
I mean, look, I was on a space earlier today, and we were talking a little bit about this game as we were talking about all the games. And I have a feeling that the Texans are getting written off by a lot of people. And a couple of Texans fans were on that space. I am a Raiders fan. I do live in Houston, so I do have an interest because it's a team close to home. But I gotta tell you, this team that the Texans have that is facing against this Kansas City team, they are healthier than they were the last time they played. And let's don't forget, they didn't play that long ago, so they got recent film on them. It's not like they played them in week 3. If they had played them in week 3, maybe things have changed, players, things like that. The Texans came in, they actually lost Tank Dell in this game. So that's another added incentive for them to go out there and fight for their brother. And now they got a situation where they got all their most of their defensive players back. And look, I think that they could give Kansas City a little run for their money. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. I understand that. It's in Kansas City, Arrowhead, the noise, the weather, possible I looked at the weather last night. I haven't looked at it today, and I think they're gonna miss the super cold. Like it's gonna be like in the single digits. That's going to be on Sunday. That game on Saturday, I think it's gonna be in like the 30s, mid to low 30s. So I think they're gonna be okay with that. That's easy to play football in that type of weather. It's okay. So I will say this: it's really up to CJ Stroud, man. If he can deliver, I'm not telling CJ Stroud has to have the performance of a lifetime, 4 touchdowns, rushing. He doesn't have to have all of that. He just needs to manage the game, keep the game close, run the ball effectively with Joe Mixon and whomever else they want to run in the backfield as well. If they want to have Damian Pierce run the ball or any of the other people, hey, have CJ Stroud run the ball a little bit as well. He showed last week that he can get out of the pocket and run the ball. He hasn't done that at all this season. I thought he would do a little bit more of that this year because he can run. So if they start to do those types of things, disrupt Kansas City's passing game, disrupt their run game a little bit as well, it's a tall task, guys. It's a very, very tall task. But I have talked to some Texans fans here and some other people that are close to the organization, and they feel like they can and will beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm going to ride on their coattails. I think that I think it's a possibility too. You always see the number 1 team, the number 1 seeds. There's always one of those teams that come out a little lackluster, a little bit flat. I don't think it's going to be Detroit this week. I think Detroit just sees the opportunity. The Kansas City Chiefs, they got a lot riding on this game. They got a lot riding on these playoffs. Yes, are they going to be the only team that's won 3 Super Bowls in a row? That's another thing. That's tough. That's a lot of pressure. And so I think that is going to be something that they maybe can't get against. Let's see what happens, but I'm going to go with the Texans on this one. I know it's a little bit of a shocker, but I'm going to go with the Houston Texans on this one in a really, really, really close game. I think they might even win by a field goal, or it might be a field goal that wins this game 20-21 Texans.
Nice. Wow. I like the Bulls call. I like it. You made a pretty good case. I will say that. Rick, I saw you chuckling over there in the bottom left corner. So
as the resident Texan fan.
No.
Sorry, wrong Rick.
I said bottom left corner. I specified bottom left corner, Rick.
Okay. I defer to Rick.
the weakest part of the game is the Texans' offensive line, and
That's
Chris
tough.
Jones and company is going to wreck house. I believe like the spread's like 8 points,
9.5.
and I think or 9.5. So I probably think Chiefs are going to take it with the spread.
They haven't covered the spread. Oh, okay, that's another
With
thing
the
too.
spread.
They're
Okay.
going to
Yeah.
cover the spread.
Okay.
All
Now
right.
the other Rick. Let's see. You can go ahead now, Rick.
Okay, well, I am the Texan fan here, and so I'll talk from my heart, and then I'll talk from my head. Talking from my heart, the Texans, we weren't giving them a shot against the Chargers, and then they, especially in the second half, just pounded the Chargers. I think Kansas City has also been a little bit just playing just well enough to win their games, and so they're not covering spreads throughout the season. Yeah, they're the better team, obviously, and Mahomes is Mahomes. But where the Texans defense is strong, they're able to shut down wide receivers. I think the bigger challenge that the Texans are going to face is at tight end. I think that Kelsey is now the playoff Kelsey that people come to expect. And I'll share is a pretty good linebacker. And I also think that Kalen Bullock is a pretty good safety. But I think that Kelsey's going to get open. He's going to, cross over through the middle of the field. And I think that's probably where the Chiefs are going to be funneling their offense through Kelsey. I do think it's going to be a close game, though, because I think, as with most other games that the Chiefs have played, they'll probably win it, coming back in the fourth quarter, maybe even the final drive, winning by somewhere between 3 and 7.
Yeah, and I misspoke. The 9.5 spread was the Commanders versus the Detroit. The Texans, it opened at 8.5, and now it's sitting at. You can find it. You can find it at 7.5 or 8 right now.
This is the playoffs, guys. This is the playoffs.
Oh God!
The Kansas City Chiefs are not going to lose to the Texans. All right, it's not going to be a close game. Both defenses are good. I'll give Houston that. They have a good defense, but this is a different level offense that they're facing. You look at Kansas City; they've got 2 starting running backs. Isaiah Pacheco is outstanding, and Kareem Hunt proved that he's still got some gas in the tank. He can play. The receivers for the Texans don't matter. Nico, I love Nico. Don't get me wrong, but outside of Nico, who do they have? Okay, Diggs is gone. Dell is gone. I'm sorry, Mechie is not the answer. You got Xavier Worthy, who's coming into his own. You've got. This is a team going for a 3rd straight Super Bowl. They don't take teams for granted in the playoffs. If you're going to beat Kansas City, you have to legitimately beat them. And I don't think Houston has the offensive talent. I mean, I don't remember who hit it. I think it was Rick. But that offensive line is a disaster between the guards and center. And Chris Jones is going to eat. And he's going to eat a lot. And Detroit showed how to beat Sam Darnold. You hit the quarterback repeatedly. Kansas City's going to do that against CJ. And CJ was very disappointing earlier this year. So I don't think it's a particularly close game. I think Kansas City wins and covers. How about you, Joe?
One thing. Okay.
Go ahead, Tip.
No,
Tip?
I was just going to say that, yes, it is a situation where. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Hello? I can hear you.
You're good, Tip.
You're good, Tip. We can hear you.
Okay. So, I mean, it's a situation where yes, they are down a lot of options as far as the receiver goes. One option that they're not down is Dalton Schultz. And where has the Kansas City Chiefs been able to get beat this season? Through the middle with their tight ends. And I think that it's a situation where this is a big, big, big Dalton Schultz game where he has to show up this week. The Kansas City Chiefs at one point in this season were the second to the last or second worst team at giving up points to the tight end, only behind Carolina. Now they find themselves a little bit better, but they're still bottom of the barrel. They're still top 6 as far as giving up points. I think it's a big Schultz week. I think that they run the ball. They try to control the clock, keep the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hand. It's, again, a very tall task, guys, because the Kansas City Chiefs run game is very, very difficult. It's a very good run game defensively. So I think it's just one of those situations where, you know what, you try to slow it down, matriculate the ball down the field, and I think they're going to game plan for that.
Yeah, but you got to convert third downs to run the ball. And when you can't block in the middle, their running game is going nowhere. Joe, you got to tell us what you think.
Well, also if the only thing that you can take is the middle of the field, it's not going to be enough firepower to put up enough points to beat Kansas City. So no shocker, I like Kansas City. I think they win this game the same way they ended up winning the Super Bowl last year, and the same way that they rolled through the regular season, and that's with their excellent defense and Andy Reid's game management skills.
Is anybody worried about that week that the Kansas City Chiefs set last week?
No, because they didn't play their players.
Right.
You know, everybody knew they were going to lose.
So they've now set 2 weeks.
So what? Do you really think that matters to a team that's been to 2 Super Bowls and won?
I think that, yes, you're right about that, Greg, but I think that there is a rust factor.
I don't think you get rusty after 2 weeks.
Yeah,
not with these guys. These guys are getting healthy. They're another week healthier and another week rested.
I'm also going to point to the game last week with the Texans. The first half, the Texans did not look good. Stroud did not look good. They weren't able to run the ball. Stroud was constantly under pressure, and yet the defense comes through, picks them up on their collective backs, and all of a sudden they go into half with a lead. And the second half, the Texans were able to move the ball on the ground. They involved Mixon more. They got another touchdown, and that all of a sudden gave them like a 10-point lead, I think, going into the half. And so they were able to do things in the second half that, wasn't even thought of in the first. So if Kansas City does, go to their normal, at least for this year, of just keeping games close and just, thinking that they're going to win at the end of the game like they have throughout the season, that gives the Texans a chance. Now, my only concern is that the Texans are so conservative in the second half that they're playing almost not to lose, and that's what allows Kansas City to be able to, have the firepower to be able to win the game at the end of each of the games. So I'm hoping that the Texans show more aggressiveness, and much like they did in the second half, I think they at least have a puncher's chance. And
we still haven't heard from Joe, though. We got to hear from Joe because we're already 18, 19 minutes into the show. And only done one game.
Right? So
the most important game.
No,
So-
this next one's the most important game.
So, anyways, while Houston's defense is very formidable and they have played solid against good teams all year, this is the playoffs. It's Patrick Mahomes. It's Travis Kelce. I expect them to find ways to continuously move the chains and neutralize that playmaking ability of the Houston defense. They just simply don't have enough firepower to compete with Kansas City, and I'm with Greg. They're gonna beat Houston by 7 to 10 points. I'll say I don't think it gets crazy shootout blowout, but because it will be a defensive battle and Mahomes will struggle at times, but at the end of the day, they get the job done. They're moving on to the AFC Championship. Okay. All right. Now with that, we'll move on to Greg's favorite game of the week, Washington versus Detroit. And since it's your favorite team, Greg, we're going to go to you first.
Quick and easy. Detroit's going to win. They're going to cover the spread. Now, listen, I've heard that Detroit has trouble with mobile quarterbacks. But look at who Detroit played this year. All right? Look at their schedule. They only lost 2 games. All right? It's not like they got blown out by mobile quarterbacks. They had a tough schedule, and the quarterback that beat them the worst was immobile, and that was Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield is not known as a running quarterback, and he's the one that picked Detroit apart. Detroit's pass defense is much better than it was. Their run defense has been solid all year long.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, Detroit's got David Montgomery back. Now, people may not understand how important that is, but now you're going to have Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs both getting 15 to 20 carries, and both of them can break long runs. Montgomery had a 75-yard touchdown earlier in the year. He's got more speed than people think. And Jahmyr Gibbs is just amazing. You've got Jamison Williams that can score from anywhere on the field, and you got the best possession receiver in the league. I truly believe no one is better than Amon-Ra over the middle. I just don't see it. So Detroit's defense has picked it up the last 2-3 weeks. I think that they're going to win this handily.
All right, let's go to our guest, special guest Rick.
Yeah, pretty much what Greg said. Detroit's going to win it. It's going to be a blowout. I expect Sam Laporta to have a big game, as well as Jahmyr Gibbs, but that's pretty much all I got to say about it.
All right. Tip, anything to add?
Yeah, no, too much lion pride. I mean, I think they will come out a little flat at the beginning just because, the jitters, they know they're the team to beat in this conference. So, that might kind of hit them a little bit, but I do think ultimately throughout the game, they're just going to be too much. They've shown they're too much all season long. I do think that this could be a game where Terry McLaurin does do some work, but I will say this: the Detroit Lions, you can pick them apart between the 20s, but when they get into that red zone or green zone area, they are one of the toughest teams to score touchdowns against. They'll let them there all day long, and it's just going to be field goal after field goal. It might even be to the point where they start to get a little bit, I would say a little bit over anxious, the Commanders, and start to go for it on fourth down. Now, I will say this: Dan Campbell and the Commanders, they've actually been pretty successful on fourth downs, but this Detroit Lions team is really, really tough, man. I think they win.
I agree. I'm with Detroit as well. I think that the only chance Washington has to even have a chance to win the game is if they establish a run game and have success with it, and it's just not going to happen against Detroit in Detroit.
I will say one thing could cost Detroit the game.
Aggressiveness?
If Washington knocks Jared Goff out of the game, Detroit's got Teddy Bridgewater and they got Hendon Hooker, and that's it for backup quarterback. And Bridgewater's got experience, but he's old and hasn't played. I mean, he was a high school coach 3 months ago. He was basically took his high school team to the championship. He's, you can't expect world-class capabilities out of him. So if they were to knock Jared Goff out, that would be a problem. But I don't see that happening because Detroit's got one of the best offensive lines in football.
Yeah, and
what about you, Bruce? I'm going to call you Bruce just for this show, so we don't get the Ricks.
That's okay. Yeah, Detroit's an easy win. The only chance, or the only positive I think that the Commanders have is if Jaden Daniels somehow does a lot, and that's an awful lot to expect of a rookie quarterback. Detroit's got indoors Goff. They've got. They got the advantage of having 2 injured players coming back, not just David Montgomery, but Terrion Arnold's coming back as a cornerback. They've got.
He said corner, by the way, not
cornerback.
Cornerback, yeah.
Defensive back.
Yes, sir. And then also, I think Greg mentioned Jamison Williams. I think he's going to go over the top and score a touchdown. I don't think that the Washington cornerbacks are going to be able to stay with him either. And then, of course, you've got the sun god, who's just an awesome wide receiver. So I just don't see a way that Washington's going to be able to compete.
All right, let's move to Sunday and to my favorite game that I'm looking forward to of the week, the LA Rams at Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm going to go first for this one. And I have the Rams winning this game.
Okay, all right.
They're going to go into Philly and upset them. And,
I like it.
And here's what I think despite Saquon having 255 rushing yards against them the last time they played, two of those were long 70-yard rushing touchdowns. I think that Sean McVay is no way he's going to let that happen again. The defensive line has been great down the stretch. If you take away the last game where the starters sat, they haven't given up more than 13 points in a game, I don't think, since the last time they played Philly. I think that the game plan is going to be whatever it takes to stop Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts from using their legs. And they're going to make Jalen Hurts basically force him to beat them through the air. And I think if it comes down to that, you're looking at Matt Stafford and Sean McVay versus Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. And I trust Matt Stafford way more. I consider Stafford an elite quarterback. He moves the ball real well. He's going to find the open man. I expect Cooper Kupp to step up in this game. I feel like he's been loading and getting, maybe trying to get a little more healthy. I think he finds a way to get involved in this game. It's not going to be just all Puka Nacua. And Kyron Williams can run the ball, too, as well. And once they get inside the goal line, in the red zone, I think that they're going to convert their red zone opportunities as well.
Can I go next?
I see Greg raising his hand. So Greg, you can go next.
I certainly hope you're right. I'm not. I think Philadelphia wins this game because overall talent. But I hope you're right, because I think a Detroit Goff versus LA Stafford matchup is serendipitous. I mean, that is heaven on earth for the Super Bowl. Those two for the Super Bowl. I would love to see that. I really would. But I just think that this Philadelphia team I think Cooper Kupp's done. I've been waiting on him all year, and he just hasn't shown up. I think he's just done. Puka Nacua is amazing, okay? And Stafford is very good in the pocket, but Hurts gives you the legs that you don't get from Stafford. And Saquon Barkley, I'm not touching him in drafts. You guys know that from last week. I'm not touching him next year, but this year, he's still Saquon. So I would definitely, I'm going Philadelphia, but I would love to see Joe be right and me be wrong on this one.
Okay, we'll go to Tip.
Yeah, I think the same thing like Greg was saying. I want you to be right, Joe. I really do, man. And Matt Stafford versus Jared Goff, or the Lions versus the Rams, that would be epic. And it would be so good. I would want to see them play 2 weeks in a row. I would forego the AFC and have both of them play twice for the championship game. They have whoever gets to whoever wins two times out of those three, that's who I want as the Super Bowl winner. And look, so I think that this would be an intriguing game. I think this week's an intriguing game too, because of the factors that you guys said. You got Nick Sirianni versus Sean McVay. Who are you picking there? That's an easy decision. And you got Matt Stafford versus Jalen Hurts. Who are you picking there? That's another easy decision. If you can stop Saquon Barkley, because if you stop Jalen Hurts, then you're most likely going to stop the passing game. So that means A.J. Brown doesn't get anything, Devonta Smith, any of the receivers, they're not going to really eat as much. You've got to stop Saquon Barkley here. It's really, really simple. You stop Saquon Barkley, you got a shot, Rams fans. So I still think that it's slight lean towards Philadelphia, but I would not be shocked in any world that they go to Philadelphia and beat them up and win.
Next.
Okay, Rick.
Which one?
Yeah, there's two of us now.
Bruce.
Yeah,
Oh, no,
you're-
you
Oh,
said
that's
Bruce.
Bruce.
We called you
You're
Bruce.
Bruce is on top.
You're
That's
Bruce. You're
Okay.
Bruce tonight.
Fire away, Rick.
All right. Call me crazy, but I'm going to agree with Joe. The Rams are going to win.
Okay, tell us why.
Tell
though.
us why, Rick.
Yeah. As long as they can stop Saquon, the Eagles were 3 for 10, I believe, last week on third downs. So if they can allow third and longs, they have a good shot to win. And Puka Nacua will have a huge game, I believe, this week because the Eagles give up the most yards to wide receiver ones in the last few weeks. So
I also want to add that I can't remember. I think the last time Jalen Hurts threw for more than 200 passing yards might have been against Pittsburgh when he sat down in the meeting and he was like at the post game and he said, "That's what y'all wanted to see." And I think that was the last time I seen him have a good passing performance. So he hasn't been playing well as of late, and I just think the Rams defense is the momentum that they're carrying over from the last few weeks gives them a real good chance of executing the game plan that's necessary.
yeah, their pass defense is pretty reasonable. So as long as they're getting Jalen Hurts to throw the football, they should be fine.
Okay, Bruce.
So I know it's really cool to be able to root on the Cinderella team. And so the Cinder Rams are everyone's favorite right now. And again, all teams have a chance in the playoffs. But I do think that Saquon is going to be too much. The Rams defense is easier against the run than it is against the pass. We saw, how tough their defensive line was rushing the quarterback last week, and but that's not where I think Philadelphia needs to play to win. I think that the Eagles also have a pretty good passing attack when you look at AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert probably has a pretty good chance this week to at least score a touchdown. But the Philadelphia defense is just too tough, and they are tough right now. And so I'm I'd love to see the Rams win. I just think this is going to be another, hometown favorite.
Okay. So that's about it for that one. So we'll move on to the last game of the weekend: Baltimore at Buffalo, the battle of the powerhouses.
The Super Bowl.
Why don't you? Well, I'm going to let you start with this one, Bruce.
Okay, good. Thanks. Because this is the game where the bettors are almost evenly split between the two teams. You have the two MVP candidates going against each other. You have two really strong defenses. Everyone knows how strong the Ravens are, but the Bills have been super tough, and Matt Milano's back, so they get another important piece back. Came back last week, and he should be ready this week. But I kind of like the Ravens, and so I think Lamar Jackson is really taking it to the next level this year. As much as I like Josh Allen, I'm thinking that between Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, that the Ravens are basically going to run their way to the AFC Championship.
I pretty much agree with that, Rick. Tip, you have who you got?
Yeah, I'm seeing a different Lamar Jackson right now, guys. And when you have Derrick Henry there, I don't think they're going to make the same mistake that they did last year in the AFC Championship game with only running the ball less than 10 times. I think they're going to run some more. I think we get a heavy dose of Derrick Henry, get a heavy dose of Lamar. It's 50-50. Zay Flowers still plays or not. Last report I saw showed that he could play. So that would be an extra bonus for them, because last week I thought that would be a something that hurts them, and it didn't seem to hurt them at all. And so with Zay Flowers coming back, possibly, you still got Mark Andrews. You got Bateman. I know JC's going to love to hear this. Bateman has been balling most of the year. Actually all year he's been doing really
and
well.
Isaiah Likely too.
And Isaiah Likely. So I think that this is a recipe for a good game, a very good game, but I think it's a recipe with the Lamar Jackson who's that focused. I saw a press conference this morning with Lamar Jackson. He looks hyper-focused. He looks pissed, and he looks like he's ready to prove doubters wrong. So I think it's Lamar Jackson.
And I jokingly said it's a Super Bowl. It is a shame that these two teams are facing in this round because
you could easily say the same thing. Yep.
Yeah, both of these teams should, it would be great if they were, meeting up in the Super Bowl because it's that level of a game to, and good that it's the last game of the week. And so,
Rick, you have any thoughts?
One player that you're forgetting, I think is gonna have a big game, but I'm also gonna go with the Ravens is Justice Hill.
I love Justice Hill. Yep.
The Ravens running attack is doing about a little under 200 yards per game, and I think it's just gonna be a blowout like when they've played in the first half of the season.
Wow, they're not even giving Buffalo a chance.
You got to give Buffalo a shot, though. You got to. Josh Allen is, and I know we're pressed with that, but Josh Allen is a stud. I just think that this is just a different season for Lamar. But you got you anytime you mention the name Josh Allen, you got to give him a shot.
Well, the problem for me with Buffalo, I'm on the Ravens as well, but the problem that I think Buffalo is going to have is that the Ravens are on they've gone 6 consecutive weeks without allowing a 100-yard rusher. And in my opinion, James Cook is the centerpiece of the Buffalo offense. When he's rolling, they're beating up on teams and they're putting up 40 points. I think that if the Ravens are going to contain him, and he's not going to have the greatest of games, and it's going to put too much on Josh Allen's shoulders. I saw somebody in the chat saying that his best passing performance of the season incoming. This could be true because he's going to have to have a game like that in order to beat Baltimore. But I just, at the end of the day, Lamar is on a mission. He's coming into the year, I had the Ravens going to the Super Bowl. Halfway through, I almost switched to Buffalo because Josh Allen and Buffalo were rolling up, right around week 8, week 9. But I think it's the Ravens season. So that's why I side with them. And we'll go. Go ahead, Tip.
I'm just gonna push back on buy and sell you because he's saying the Ravens secondary is so bad. They were really bad. I think over the last 6 weeks or so, they've kind of figured some things out in that defense. And I think that it's going to be enough because, look, the Bills just haven't had enough time with each other. They've had a lot of injuries on the wide receiver. They haven't had enough time with each other. I think that benefits the Ravens a little bit more.
Both teams have good quarterbacks. Josh Allen is probably the MVP this year over Lamar Jackson. All right?
That's another conversation.
I don't think either one of them should win it. I think Saquon should get it, but he's a running back, so he's not going to. But both have good quarterbacks. Both are MVP candidates. All right. Both teams have decent wide receivers, but not great wide receivers. Neither team has a great wide receiver anymore. I think the tight ends are pretty equal between the two. I like Kincaid. I like Andrews. I like Dawson Knox is better than people think. And I like Isaiah Likely. There's a lot of similarities offensively between these two teams. Now, I think Derrick Henry is way better than James Cook. But I think James Cook is a different style runner than Derrick Henry and has I won't say he's got the capability to break a long one because Derrick Henry's got that capability. Okay, Derrick Henry is still a great back. All right. I think offensively, I give a slight edge to the Ravens because of Derrick Henry, but only because of Derrick Henry. All right. Defensively, I think actually I love Harbaugh. I do. And he's had some great defensive coordinators over the years, and the Ravens have been outstanding defensively over the years. But this year, early in the year, that pass defense was putrid. It wasn't just bad. It was putrid. Yes, the last 3-4 weeks they've played better, but they haven't played great, and they haven't played teams that are going to test them. Buffalo will test them, okay? I think coaching wise that Harbaugh gives them a slight edge. I think this is a toss up game. I really do. I'm looking forward to this. I'm going to go just because I like to be contrarian. I'm going to go with the Bills here because everybody else went with the Ravens.
Okay.
But I think it's going to be a very close game and a very entertaining game. And the only way I think the Ravens win is if they give King Henry 25 to 30 carries.
Yeah.
They give him that, they win.
Either team can win this. I mean, the spread is what, 1 point spread?
1.5.
I think, and like if you look at ESPN's betting, 50.3% chance to win, they go with the Bills. So that's 50 to 49. 50.3.
Yes, Ian's agreeing with me. All right.
50.3. So it's basically a split. And then the Ravens
50.3 is half a point better than 49.
And then if you look at Fox NFL, they're saying that the Ravens, if you put $100 down, the Ravens will win you back $475, the Bills $550. So you're basically just saying this is a game that could go either way. Both teams are great. I will agree with Greg about the MVP. I think that Josh Allen has done more with less. And I think that Lamar Jackson has had a little bit better supporting cast on offense. But again, much like this game, it could go either way.
Rick, there's a beautiful thing out that I posted on Twitter. It's a YouTube thing. It's a short. It's one guy dresses up in different jerseys for different teams and pretends he's different people. And basically the reason they say that Josh Allen wins is because of the narrative. Lamar Jackson's already won 2. Josh Allen hasn't won any. Josh Allen wins the narrative battle.
Oh man. Okay. Wait. I know we got more to the show. If we have like a few minutes after, like, we got to talk about this because
we can arm wrestle.
Okay. We'll get it in there at the end. Maybe we'll talk about it.
Yeah, it seems like a good time to switch over and.
Yeah,
we got to meet Rick here today.
That's right. That's right. We have to get to the guest interview here, but I believe that we have some bills to pay first. So
no, we don't actually.
No, we're ready to roll.
We talked to JC, and we don't have to pay bills.
So we don't have any. We don't have any commercial.
We go right to Rick.
All right. So we'll go right to Rick. All right. So Rick Avery is a fantasy sports fanatic and an avid DFS player. He's constantly researching and analyzing data. I would also like to add that Rick is the very first person that I met at Scott Fish Bowl 13 live Boston draft. There was a breakfast before the draft, and he sat down across from me and we shared some words and we also drafted next to each other both years in a row. Both years. One spot next to each other, and had lots of fun doing it. Glad to meet the guy, and I'm glad he could make it on here tonight on such short notice. Very appreciative, Rick. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your experiences playing fantasy football, and any of your approaches that have helped you become successful?
So where to start? I think I started actually playing fantasy baseball, I think in 2006.
Okay.
And then I fantasy hockey, and then went to fantasy football after that. But yeah, it's been to think about it, it's been like it's 2006, 19 years. It's crazy. If you were to think of that, it's like I know.
You're a toddler. You played less than 20 years. You're a toddler.
Yeah. But it's crazy to think
playing
that
when he was 2 or 3. He was in grammar school.
Yeah, not all of us are fossils, Greg.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Fair enough. Rick, I've got to ask you real quick. DFS is something I've never done. Explain it so the users know what DFS is and what attracted you to it.
So I play on DraftKings typically. So you usually have a starting salary of like $50,000 and each player has a different salary value, and your goal is to make the best lineup without going over that salary.
But since it's daily, it's just for that week, right? You're not doing a full season.
It's for that specific day, or you could do it by the game too.
Okay.
So if I wanted to
win
play
one-
just Detroit, Washington, for example, I could just play that if I wanted to.
Oh, that's cool. Of course, you would take golf, right?
Yeah.
Guys, ask some questions.
Yeah,
guys,
you, Rick. I'd like to ask one question. And you mentioned in your bio that you're constantly researching and analyzing data. And I think that, we're seeing a lot of data out there. What is your favorite source, and and can you give a little explanation on how you use the data to help?
I don't really have a favorite source. I use multiple sources, and then I blend everything together to get a good result. So I probably use about 10 to 12 different sources. So like I play DFS pretty much every day. So I use that to compose my research for a couple hours.
Awesome.
Do you have a favorite analyst?
I like
Present company accepted, of course.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
trying to think. Mike Leone from ETR.
Mike's
Okay.
very good. I like Mike too. All
Tim?
right.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, no. So as far as is it just DFS? Do you do redraft, dynasty, any other leagues as well?
I do DFS. I run a craft beer league.
Okay,
which
talk
is
to us about
36
that.
person
Oh,
redraft.
wow. Oh my god.
But it's split between 3 conferences. So
okay,
each,
okay. So it's like
each
12
conference
teams.
gets 12 people.
Yeah. Okay.
And then winners get prizes and stuff like that.
That's
And
pretty
then
cool.
I do Dynasty as well.
So you started that yourself, or do you run that with a group of people? Or
I took that over for
Okay.
a few years now.
cool, man. That's neat.
I got a question
And
about Scott Fishbowl for you.
Yeah.
Since you drafted live, Tip and I went down to the live draft in Houston, and I think Rick was there as well. And Tip this year used data that I compiled to write a article for the Sports Affiliation about return games. And I thought because of the scoring system for Scott Fishbowl that this would be interesting to all Scott Fishbowl participants. Would it have helped you, seeing as how much points were scored by guys like Raheem Blackshear was a top 20 running back? Okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Would
Hey,
an
Cavante
article
Turpin-
like that have helped you?
And Turpin, yeah.
Turpin outscored CD Lamb most weeks. Actually,
Oh, yeah.
I rostered both, so I know.
But at the beginning of the year, you didn't know, right?
Well, I drafted
He did-
Turpin was the
You drafted both of them.
Okay.
Turpin was the only kick returner that I drafted. I did add a couple throughout the season, when I needed to fill in a lineup spot. But Turpin was really the only one I was targeting.
A lot of
told
people in
Tim-
our
During Scott Fishbowl, I didn't even draft a returner.
I
Yeah,
told Tip he
I
should
didn't
reach
either.
out to Scott and see if he could do that article next year and post it on Scott's page, because I think every Scott Fishbowl participant would have been helped, especially if you didn't draft well. There were a lot of returners you could pick up in free agency throughout the year,
yeah.
but people just didn't realize.
There's no guarantee that the kick returners are going to carry that much value though next year. We don't know.
The cautionary tale was that the most popular early draft picks for kick returners were Rashid Shaheed, who got injured, and Marvin Mims, who towards the end of the year was doing really well, but up
Didn't
until
return
the
a
end
lot
of the
of kicks.
season, a lot of people weren't even able to start Marvin Mims even as a kick returner. So so you have to be careful. I didn't draft a kick returner. I did add Turpin from free agency about midway through the season, just as he was starting to take off. So I was pretty lucky with that. But I still think you're better off using players who are going to give you guaranteed usage. That was the other challenge, was figuring out which kicker was going to have that big game that particular day. And
Well, one of the things I did for Tip was I tracked which teams were allowing kick returns, so you could target a kick returner that played for a team that was playing against New Orleans or Washington, which gave up the most kick returns. But that said, I still think that a lot of kick returners were not drafted throughout the process.
Yeah.
Hey, if you picked up Cavante Turpin mid-season, he was in the offense by then.
Yeah.
He was returning kicks, but he was also in the offense. Khalif Raymond, when he was healthy, was good for Detroit. Now, we don't know that Scott will keep the scoring system the same, but I still think
likely
that
won't.
most Scott Fishbowl participants would have loved an article like that personally.
Yeah.
Yeah. One
So
thing,
what's-
quick. So at the Boston Live Draft, when I first met Joe, he had a binder like this big.
I knew this was going to
players.
come up.
And that's what first interested me into talking to him was like, oh, can I just look at that? And we've become friends ever since.
Wow.
I brought the binder. I just, again, the people with the laptops. You guys heard me go on the laptop rant in the DMs.
Yeah.
About
Little did we know
that.
that you had a binder, a 4-inch thick binder instead of a
It was-
laptop.
I
It
didn't
was
have anything. I
it
just
was
went in
a
there and had
couple-
fun.
That's it. That's what I did the second year. The second year I didn't bring the binder.
That's fair.
Hey,
I was very
you
disappointed
guys-
in that.
He
You
was.
guys-
Rick was like,
with
"Where's the
what's-
binder?"
With
ahead,
what
go ahead,
Scott, do you think anybody has done more for our hobby than Scott Fish has?
Oh, heck
I mean,
No.
all the charity work that he's done, I think he has done more to legitimize fantasy sports. For years, it was just, oh, that's just a bunch of gamblers. Well, I've played free leagues since 1986. I've been playing. All right, so 14 plus 24, 38 years I've
28,
played fantasy
38,
sports.
42.
Yeah, I've been playing a long time, and I don't play in pay-to-play leagues. Scott Fish, I pay to get in because it's charity, but I don't pay $100. I know Tip does, but I don't pay $100 to get in the league. I play for free, and all my leagues are free leagues. I just think that what Scott's done merits a Hall of Fame nomination. I just believe that.
100%. 100%. How
Do you
big it's
guys-
For sure, yeah.
Do you guys go to the expo?
I have not been
No.
yet. Planning on going this year though.
Rick, would you go to the expo?
Of course. Oh, which Rick? Bruce.
Oh,
Bruce
I
will.
know you would, Rick.
There we go.
Avery, would you?
Where's it at? It's in Ohio, right?
Canton,
It's in
yeah.
Canton, Ohio, at the Hall of Fame. You get entry
When is it
into the
typically?
Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
It's in August. I think
It's,
the Hall of
maybe.
Fame game is the week after that.
No, it's a
August
week
8th.
before.
It's
Okay.
Or
August
week after
8th
the Hall
to the
of Fame
10th.
game.
I think it's
week
August
after the Hall of
8th.
Fame. Yeah.
I think it starts
Yeah.
August 8th or it's August 7th, something like that.
So I've got a
I'd
quick question.
consider going, but I don't know yet.
I've got a
You
quick
should.
question. I've got a quick question for Rick since the dollars came up and we found out Greg doesn't buy into expensive leagues, but I saw Rick kind of look like, I've been actually
Oh
spending
yeah,
some
I
money.
feel like this.
So curious, what sort of budget do you have for I don't know, the different leagues you're in, and what's next for you for like 2025? That was we're all kind of looking at what we're going to be doing next year.
I really can't discuss budget.
Okay.
married?
Amount.
Are you married, Rick? Are you married? Do you
Yes.
hide that from your wife?
Then you can't
Because I
say.
know other people on this panel that hide their spendings from their wife.
But what I do is I roll my winnings to each day or each week, so
Oh,
it just keeps adding up. So
And what's next for you? What do you-
typically, I've been breaking even lately.
So what's up for you for 2025, especially since I imagine the DFS stuff is going to slow down for you during the off season. So what plans do you have are you going to try new leagues? What's up for you for next year?
I'm actually not, because I play DFS golf. So golf season just started.
and baseball. The baseball season.
And baseball's about to start up. So Got to do research into that. Might do some season-long baseball leagues. I'd like to try a salary cap league for football. That'd be fun. Or I would actually like to try like a league of leagues type of thing where more than one sport's being offered at a time.
That's all the challenging stuff that I'm afraid to try. So that's cool that you're actually into it. I know we were thinking about talking about zero running back strategy. It really is a topic that won't survive well in the 5 minutes we have less. So I don't know. Do you want to just sort of kick around, more questions?
Why don't we get Tip's thoughts on Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson MVP situation?
Yeah,
Nice.
This is easy for me, guys. Like, look,
wait a minute, before you go, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, should Saquon get the award?
No.
Not even.
How many 2,000-yard rushers have not gotten the MVP the year they got it? How many people have gotten 2,000 yards? Do you know?
No, it's been quite a few. I mean, you've got Eric
9.
Bo Johnson. Okay, yeah.
9 have gotten it. Nobody's gotten it twice. All right, and of the 9, all but 3 got MVP the year they got it.
Okay.
CJ 2K did not.
Yeah.
Chris Johnson did not. I don't remember who else did, but Chris Johnson did not.
And Adrian Peterson won it.
Yeah, Adrian Peterson won the MVP that year, and rightfully so because he tore his ACL the year before.
Two of the people that did not lost to a Manning.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was Peyton twice or Peyton and Eli. I don't know, but it was Peyton at least once.
Okay,
look,
Tip.
We all want to talk about things that have never happened, right? And Lamar Jackson did something that has never happened in as a quarterback. Over 4,000 yards, over 900 rushing yards. That has never happened ever. Like nobody's never done that. So I look at it like you broke records. You've had the stats to prove it all year long. Your stats are better than Josh Allen. I understand the fact that Josh Allen hasn't had a MVP, but I'm not here for participation awards, guys. I'm here for who did the best, who was the player that did the best on their team. Yes, he's got a better running back than Josh Allen, but James Cook was not bad either. James Cook had over 18 touchdowns. I think he had 18 touchdowns this year. He did not do bad. He was not a bad running back by any means. He sure did. He exceeded my expectations because I had him pegged as a sit this year. I wasn't drafting him. So he exceeded my expectations. I was wrong on that. But boy, was I right on Lamar Jackson. I think that him having Derrick Henry over there was a big thing for him. But Lamar Jackson proved yet again that he's MVP worthy with the 4,000 passing yards and the 900 rushing yards, something that has never been done in the NFL. So I think it's Lamar Jackson's to lose. Even if he lost this game against the Buffalo Bills, which it can't happen, I still think Lamar Jackson had the better season. Look at the stats. But I think the winner of this game gets the MVP award.
No.
I think that's what they're going to do. I know, but that
the voting goes in at the end of the regular season. The votes
he's just saying that he knows that the voting's done, but I again, it could go either way to me, and I wouldn't be unhappy if Jackson wins. I wouldn't be unhappy if Allen, but I think it's between those two guys. And
I just think it should be Saquon.
Saquon, if Saquon would have broke the record, and if he would have broke the record on the
if he played the last game, he would have broken the record.
But Greg,
he needed 101 yards to break the record,
and he would have needed an extra game.
Well, but the original record was done in 12 games. Everybody that broke it after that had 16 or more.
Wait, Eric Dickerson broke that record in 12 games?
I know O.J. Simpson. The first record
right.
was
14 games. I thought it was 14 games.
Right.
Was it 14?
I think it was 14.
That was O.J. Simpson.
That was in '83. Yeah.
And for you to get 2,000 yards is a absolute accomplishment. I get it.
Yeah.
Give him Offensive Player of the Year, but I don't think you can give him MVP.
How do you give somebody Offensive Player of the Year and make somebody else the MVP? That just doesn't make sense to me.
They do that all the year. Yeah.
Saquon doesn't have a consideration, in my opinion, because Jalen Hurts is there. If they had a really crappy quarterback and they still finished 14-3 and won, then I think his performance holds a little bit more merit where he could be considered. But it's a quarterback award. I mean, let's.
Well, it is, but backs have won it, and they've won it in batches. Now, let me ask you this: how many receiving yards did Saquon have? Did he have like 400 or 500 yards receiving? Because pull that up, because I think he had like 2,600 total yards. That's pretty amazing. And I think he had 19 touchdowns, something like that. He had a lot of touchdowns, and that's with Jalen Hurts push stealing touchdowns. So Saquon
had 2,000. He had 2,005 rushing yards, 13 touchdowns. He had 278 receiving yards with 2 touchdowns. So he had 15 total touchdowns. Actually, I agree. I think he should be around the 20 touchdown range. But that freaking tush push, that just took a lot of touchdowns away from Saquon.
Yep. I just think and remember me, I'm the guy that will not touch Saquon next year. I will not draft him. I think this year, I think this year, Saquon deserves. He's got to be at least top 3 in my mind.
Yeah. Consideration.
He is in the top 3. I'm just saying that
I think he deserves.
the top 2 is Jackson and Allen.
Can we get our guest thoughts on this?
Yeah, Rick.
Rick, you have any thoughts?
Not really. I think Saquon should be Offensive Player of the Year, but not MVP. I think it should go to Lamar.
Okay.
Why?
Why Lamar over Josh Allen? Other than the fact you hate the Bills, I tell you.
I don't hate that. I actually love the Bills.
Do you?
Yeah. Just what Tip's points were, like Lamar was been excellent and broke record, like almost broke a record. Like I think he's the best.
He got to the 40
would he have done that without Travis Henry? Without Derrick Henry? Would he have?
I think he would have got close. The way we've been seeing Lamar Jackson play this year, I think he would have got close to. I don't think that he would have. That's a really good question, Greg. It's a really great question because
every play action after faking the Derrick Henry gives you really 5 seconds to throw the ball.
That's a great question. I would probably say no.
I look at the running backs for Baltimore better than Buffalo. I look at the wide receivers, and as bad as the wide receivers are at Baltimore, they're worse than Buffalo. And I look at the tight ends, and you said, well, Kincaid. Well, I haven't heard Kincaid's name pretty much all season, so I don't know if that's Mark Andrews came back about mid-season, and he's been on. And Andrews has been one of the top tight ends in the second half. So I just think that Jackson, I think he's a better runner, and he's got, I think, better stats than Josh Allen. But I think Josh Allen has done more with less offense around him to get that team into the position they're in right now. And, again, they could win. And then, again, I know that the voting's already done, but I think that will just kind of also highlight the fact that, Allen has really put this team on his back personally and made them a winner.
Rick A., I know you think that Lamar deserves it. Okay. Rick B. made some good points. Do you acknowledge his points?
Yeah, I'm not saying that Josh Allen's like terrible, or I think he's second place for sure, but I prefer Lamar's season. Like Mark Andrews wasn't good all season. Like he was good towards the second half. Like Isaiah Likely was pretty good in the first half of the season.
And disappeared in the second half.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, Rick B. Let me ask you this: I feel like the AFC East wasn't as competitive this year. Miami, the Jets, the Patriots. You got to factor that in a little bit. if the AFC East was a little bit more tough, if the Jets played the way they were supposed to play and actually compete with Buffalo all the way to the end, I mean, do you think that Josh Allen?
Well, okay, so if we're looking divisions, AFC North, you've got Cleveland. Cincinnati was good.
If you're going to get a divisions, give it to Goff, the quarterback on the best team in the toughest division. He is the quarterback on the best team in the toughest division.
Somehow it's always going to go back to Detroit. So.
Right.
Absolutely.
This argument can go all night.
And I think we are pretty much at the end of the show.
Greg's got a point, but no.
No, Greg doesn't have a point that time. He was saying it tongue in cheek. I think 3 players have a legitimate shot at the MVP. I think it's Saquon Barkley, I think it's Josh Allen, and I think it's Lamar Jackson. I think Jackson has the best overall stats.
Mm-hmm.
I think Allen has done more for his team, but I think what Barkley did is the most impressive of all. There have been several 4,000-yard throwers. Okay, that doesn't impress me.
Well,
900. The combination is impressive. Don't get me wrong. I'm not belittling that, but we've always known that Lamar Jackson is a great running quarterback. Okay, I just think we've never known that Saquon Barkley could put up numbers like he put up in Philly.
With a fully healthy season, absolutely.
Well, I think with the better
but he never
line,
came
a better
close to that
team.
number before. Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson have both come close to the numbers they put up this year. They have.
And Greg, don't sell Jared Goff short, because Jared.
Oh,
Goff,
I'm not. He's just
for a stretch there. He was actually in the conversation. I thought
well,
it was
70% completion rate.
Yeah.
Nah, what Jared Goff has done, he's number 1 or number 2 in like 4 or 5 different quarterback categories. But he doesn't have the touchdowns and he doesn't have the yards because it's a run-first offense.
Yeah.
So he's not going to have the raw numbers to compete with these other guys. But what he's got is a 15-2 record.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what he's got, and that's better than Allen, and it's way better than Lamar Jackson.
Well, the interesting thing is next week we'll be able to discuss this further.
Although
we'll see who's won between the two. But
no,
they announced
it.
Conversation.
They announced it the day before, the night before the Super Bowl. I think they have that awards show.
So it's more than next week, right?
Yeah,
it's like 2 weeks from now. I think.
Yeah, so we can still arm wrestle over this, but we're now 8 minutes over. So.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, Rick, thanks for sticking with us.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
I like to thank Greg and Tip for coming on tonight and helping support me and Rick on our first show here.
We're taking over next week, Joe.
Okay.
Tip and I are back in charge next week and the week after. But next week, we're officially turning the show over to you. This was a test run. This was to let you guys learn that if you go too long in one segment, it pushes into your other segments.
Right.
So we didn't. You had to learn that. I had to learn that. And now, Rick, you were going to watch the clock, and yet our game segment went way over. And it was all that first game. Go back and watch the first game. We
didn't even get to our either of our discussion topics, but it's all good. We still got
over to next week.
We still got in some good info and had a good time. So, Tip, why don't you tell us what you got going on in 2025 with football guys?
Yeah, I've already written some articles for them, so I've started doing that. We do have some other things coming. I can't really talk a bunch about it.
Right.
But yeah, it's just keep on the lookout. I will be staying relevant, so just know that.
Very cool.
Awesome. And Rick Avery, tell the people where they can find you and your data?
They can find me on X or Twitter at Ravery92. I do, like I said, run a craft beer league, so if you're interested, send me a DM. We're usually looking for someone. So send me a DM.
36
How much
teams
is
deep.
entry?
What was that?
How much is entry?
It's a deposit, so $45.
Okay.
Awesome.
And Greg, where will you be?
I am moving to Tennessee if the house sale goes through. We got bad news today. Our inspector couldn't get into the crawl space because it was blocked. So they've got to fix that so we can get the inspection done. But if that goes, we hope to close by the end of the month. And then in March, at the end of March, we're headed for the Philippines for a year.
Is that where I'm going to get my lobster, Greg? Is that if I'm finally going to get my lobster, I got to go to the
I
Philippines?
told you you get it. If you fly to the Philippines, I will buy you a lobster dinner.
You come to Massachusetts to get lobster as well.
Yeah, but it costs
True.
money.
No, I want it from Greg.
Okay.
I got a 1 pound lobster and you know what a tiger prawn is, Rick?
Mm-hmm.
I do not. No.
It's the size of my forearm. It's huge. I got a tiger prawn, a 1 pound lobster, and a big plate heaped of pulled crab meat. 2 mixed drinks for my wife and daughter, and I had water. Total cost in Thailand, $40.
Wow.
Wow.
$40.
I believe
Now,
it, too.
see, I'll buy him a lobster dinner at that cost. At that
He might
cost.
buy me too.
And we still
But I
need,
ain't paying $50 to $100 for him.
and
to
we
eat
still need to get together at the Corkscrew too. So, and Joe, where are we going to be?
We're going to be doing this podcast for the Sports Affiliation. Appreciate JC and Iggy for that. You might see me write an article or two. I've been considering it. I'm not the greatest writer in the world, but I can put my thoughts on paper and you know let the boys do the editing and you know maybe come up with a couple of good ones during the off season. What about you, Rick?
Well, I'll be here and hopefully with a better timer and also the kill switch or the hook for if we get too long. But most of all, really do want to thank people for tuning in and watching and asking questions. The chat has been going a bit on fire, so that's really good. And no, there is no lobster in Boston.
How much is the lobster in Boston, Rick? What do we pay, like $30 to $45 for one or two?
It all depends. Yeah.
Yeah, depends on where you're going.
Yeah. It could be anywhere
But
from
if
like
you go to a restaurant,
20 to
it's
50.
gonna be 50 to 100 at a restaurant for lobster in Boston.
So I went to the North End. Me and my wife went to the North End 2 weeks ago, and we got a half tower of raw bar. It came with a couple of crab legs, a lobster tail, and like 12 different oysters from the area, and that ran us $90. So.
Yeah.
But it was well worth it. It was delicious.
Well, it fed both of you guys, so really it's what, 45.
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe I think the full tower was just under 200. So that's obviously filling a whole table full, but it's big. It was like,
yeah, and you can't take seafood home. I refuse.
You can't. No, you can't.
Yeah,
no way.
I
You can't.
refuse.
You can't. I agree with
Shrimp.
that.
You can take shrimp.
Yeah.
Maybe shrimp. Yeah, you're right about that, Greg. But not other than that, no. No, I'm not taking crab legs home. I'm not taking lobster. No.
If I'm buying crab legs, I'm eating them there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's true. But that's
I
a
mean,
lot of food.
I didn't build this body by skimping.
All this talk about lobster and
You guys
food
are
in
making me
general is
hungry,
making
right?
me hungry. So,
I'm super hungry. Yeah.
Joe, why don't you take us out?
Well, we have to talk about it next week. You can join us next week at our regular day and time. Our guest will be Deval Henry of I'm Just Saying Sports podcast. And I believe me, Rick, Greg will be on as well.
I think Tip too.
Yeah.
Tip,
I'll be on that,
Tip.
I know Duvall. So yeah.
Tip invited Duvall, so if you want to do it with just 3, I'll back away. But if Tip should be on.
Okay. Excellent. I'll be looking forward to that because I don't know much about him, and we'll have to pepper him with some questions so he can learn,
he's good. He's fun.
learn what he's all about.
Yeah, he's fun.
All right, so that's it. You got anything to add, Rick? Or that's it? We're calling it a show.
As always, appreciate the people that were on the show, and also importantly, I appreciate folks tuning in. And hopefully, you'll see us next week and on the go forward. And hit us with questions during the week. My Twitter account's right next to my name. If you have any questions you'd like for us to tackle next week, send them my way, and we'll make sure to get them on, and we'll make sure to get them answered. So in the meantime, thanks. Enjoy this weekend's games. There should be 4 great games, and we'll be able to talk about them next week.
Detroit's going to blow them out.
All right,
that's for that minor league game. So.
All right, that's it. JC, take us out. We're done. Have a good night, everybody.